Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next. If you're not too careful, you just might learn something. I didn't have enough hands here to film all this, but basically what you have to do is, with the hub inside the bearing, you have to have a drift that's the right size to fit on that inner hub, and then support this end here and this end out here and drive it out through the front. Now I had to kind of lay it here on the supporting post of my framing table and then kind of hold it up against myself here and then hammer it. So while it did put up a bit of a fight, thankfully it wasn't as bad as I expected. It came right on out of there. So next thing we got to do is we have to get this race off of here, and the way to do that, you'll never get a puller underneath that, so you have to cut that with a grinding wheel as far through as you can without digging into any important metal, and then use a chisel and crack it and spread it, and it'll come right off. I doubt we're far enough through this, but we'll give her a try anyway. Oh, look at that. She popped. That's good. Now you can see she'll spin right off of there. Every now and again, the gods smile upon you, don't they? So, doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen on occasion. And we got down into it a little tiny bit, but that's not going to hurt anything. Alright, the next thing you want to do is you want to clean this hub up. A little emery cloth. Stuff you buy at the big box home improvement store is sufficient for, like, when you're brazing pipe and stuff like that, or soldering pipe. It's just referred to as emery cloth. Just want to make sure you got any spooge or whatever that's developed on there over time cleaned off, so it doesn't fight you when you go to press your new bearing in. So now this is done and ready. Now we need to press our bearing out of the hub here. Now one thing, you don't want to throw your inner race away just yet, because we'll need it when we go to press this bearing out. Is we can just pop it right back in there, and that'll give us something to bear on when we're pressing that bearing out. So, but first, what we'll have to do is, there is a snap ring inside here, and I'll reposition the camera here in a second so you can get a better look at it. You need to pull that snap ring out first. Okay, now you might first be inclined to use a pick or something like that to try and get this snap ring out of here. I'll point it out to you. It's right there and goes all the way around, and the other end of it is right here. If I can maybe tip that up, let you get a better look at it. Yeah, this bit right here and this bit right here. There's a little gap right there you can get into, but don't waste your time with a pick, because it's only going to lead to a bent pick and a bunch of heartbreak and frustration. You're going to need to use a screwdriver, because this is a very strong snap ring, and get it down in there and twist it first to break it loose, because again, as I said, there's a ton of corrosion in here, and it's just going to, make that snap ring sticky, And as I said, it's a very strong snap ring, so you want to get in there and then just kind of go at it like this and get it up like that, get it started, and then you can work your way around. Then maybe work on this side a little bit. Again, it's going to fight you. Very, very strong snap ring. And it's most likely going to try to vacate this dimension and go somewhere else if it pops out of there. So you want to keep something over top of it here. And there we go. Now we'll blow any of that crap out of here. Now we can press that bearing from the other side and push it on out of here. Okay, now we have our spindle jigged up into the press here, and I have this little piece of metal here protecting my part of my ball joint tool, and the two vertical plates are resting on a flat surface on the back side of the spindle assembly. Then we have this, which is part of my ball joint kit, which fits right on that inner race. That's what you want to apply force to push that bearing out. And then we'll lay our anvil on top of that, and then we'll put that on there, because the diameter of this is close enough to the diameter of that where it'll booger it up, so we don't want to do that. So we'll just do that. Now let's get to pressing. Alright, you want to make sure, of course, that you have a good even press on it. You don't want it to, bow out on you or anything like that. And don't be afraid if you're applying your pressure and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. As long as everything is stable and you keep applying pressure, you'll usually get a pretty loud bang when it breaks loose. And it'll fight you all the way out. It may pop a few more times as you're pressing it out of there. It's not going to want to come easy, but we'll get it out as far as we can, before it hits these supports here, and then we'll have to come up with something else. You'll know when it hits, because then you'll feel pressure again. Or in some cases you might get lucky and get it all the way out, but not in this case. So that's as far as we can go with that. So I think I've got this enough out of the way where we can push the rest of that bearing out of there. We'll see. Maybe not quite. Looks like we're okay on one side, but not quite on the other. Let's see what we can do here. You have to be careful, because you don't want to be on the bleeding edge of that lip and then have it pop free on you. That's why we set it up pretty much in the center when we started, because we're going to be putting a heck of a lot of force on this thing. Alright, I need to jog a little bit to the left here. Hopefully pop it right on out of there. How about that? That's why it's always a good idea to maybe kind of keep one hand on everything. As usually it comes apart with a bang. And there we go. One bearing out and about. Alright, so we got our nice new bearing ready to go. And we've got our spindle set in here. A nice flat spot to press against. I'm just going to dab a little bit of lube on here just to make sure this thing slides in all nice and pretty. Do the same in here. Now the bearing's not directional in any way, so you can just go down into here like so. Okay, now that we've gone through and double checked everything, you just use your old bearing there as a kind of a tool. You'll know when you're all the way in. That's it. Alright, our new bearing is all pressed in nice and pretty, and it's bottomed out in its bore like it should be. Now we'll go back over to the bench. We have to reinsert this snap ring, and then we have to, and this is where it gets tricky, because if you don't do this part properly you'll damage the bearing. We'll have to press the hub back in through the front, but you can't just whack it on in there, because what you'll do is you'll pop the back side of the bearing out. So we're going to have to come up with a little MacGyver-y stuff to do that. Okie dokie. Now it's time to put our snap ring back in here. And if you'll recall, as I said, this snap ring is no fun, because it is very, very stout. So best way to do it is to get one side in and then kind of work your way in like so. Whoo, boy, that's a challenge. You want to make sure that snap ring is seated in properly all the way around. A little tap. And there she goes. She is in there. If you were planning on changing the lug studs, now's the time to do it, because you're not going to be able to do it once you get this pressed back in to this hub here. Before we get started, we're going to kind of coat this with a little bit of oil here to make it go in nice and smooth. Okay, so we have a very big chunky piece of threaded rod here. I'm using, it's a yellow one if you're going to buy it at Tractor Supply or something. And then we're using an 1 11/16 socket here to back up against the inner race of this bearing. Now I did a wheel bearing replacement on another vehicle a while back, and a viewer mentioned in the comments that about not having any support back here on this bearing, and I didn't show that in the video, so I'm going to make a point to exemplify that here, because he was obviously correct in that you need to support the back side of this inner race, otherwise you'll just push it out, and then that's not good. So, and I failed to show that as I was doing that before, and it led the viewer to question. So that's how we're doing that. And then we have our hub here, and then all it is then a matter of tightening this up, and it'll pull the whole thing together. So let's get a socket and an impact and run her on in. Alrighty, and here we go. Alright, you'll know when it's bottomed out because you'll feel a difference there. And we just undo her. Easy peasy homemade tool there. And then we have our hub and our bearing all back together. Now all we have to do is put it back in the car and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Alrighty then. Alright, so now you know how to change the front wheel bearing in a 2012 Hyundai Sonata. The tough kind, the one with the press out bearing. I think after 2012, maybe 2014, they went to a removable hub design, which is far superior, at least from a maintenance standpoint. But anyhow, thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Like I said, you never know what we're going to be working on next, and if you're not too careful, you just might learn something. So feel free to comment. Welcome all commentary. And you can also email me here at MacGyversWorkshop@gmail.com. And check out my son's channel, The ASAP Automotive. Just search that in the YouTube bar. I'll put a link to his channel down here in my description. And he's got some cool stuff going on over there. He'll eventually, he's just getting started up, but he'll eventually be doing maybe some how-tos and some vlogging and some various different things. And he's got a real exciting project going on right now that's predates our death cart throwdown. Son, you're getting behind. You know, can't let your old man, lap you. But I have to admit, the project he's got in the middle of right now is pretty cool. And they're stuffing a 6-liter LS motor into a little Jeep, like a Wrangler or whatever the hell that thing is. It's insanity. It's, way too much power, way too much motor, but boy, is that going to be fun. So, and apparently it's a thing, so they make a complete kit that's pretty much, tinker toy, that everything bolts, a bolt-up operation. So I'm excited to see how that turns out, and I wouldn't be surprised if that thing would wheelie. That would be such a short wheelbase and all that torque from that 6-liter. But or it could break parts too. I don't know. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned, and remember, you never know what we're going to be working on next, and if you're not too careful, you just might learn something.